We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about why you struggle to consistently catch bass. We're going to identify the problems, and we're going to talk about how easy it is to fix them. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Got him that time. Get over here, you ain't running at me. Oh, he was running for that. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And you know, a lot of anglers talk to me about how they struggle with consistency. They go out to the water, they spend all day on the only day off they have, and they're out there 3 and 4 hours, and it's a big skunk, right? They don't get anything, but they'll go another day and maybe they can catch 1 or 2. And then maybe once a month, once every other month, or maybe just once a season, they have that really good day where they put those patterns together and they're able to catch a whole bunch of fish. It makes them really happy, but they don't understand why. They don't know why they're not able to do that on a consistent basis. And they watch other anglers. They see other anglers consistently putting bass in the boat, and it can be very frustrating. Well, we're going to look at some of those really simple reasons, because it boils down to simple reasons why you're having struggles with consistency. And struggle number 1, lack of focus on the water. When you're out there fishing, you're not focused on what it is that you're doing. As an example, and this is one of the things that I'm guilty of as well. We'll make a cast, and we're working that cast, but while that cast is being worked, we're kind of looking around, finding other spots for our next cast. We've already moved on. We've already given up on this cast, and we're looking for another spot to cast. Well, whenever you don't work the cast that you just made, whenever you're not going to give that cast your 100% focused, you've diminished the ability of that cast to catch a fish. We need to focus on each and every cast. We need to be laser focused. Whenever you've gotten it reeled in and you're done with that cast, then look around, identify spots that you want to work. But while you're working that cast, pay attention to it. A lot of times we lose focus, and what happens when we lose focus? Well, we're not working that bait properly. Either we're doing it nonchalantly, or we're working it too fast, or we're working it too slow. Either way, we are not working that bait the best way that we possibly could, and our fishing really suffers. And believe me, this is something that I find myself doing all the time. I've got to focus myself and make myself focus on the cast that I just made. And a lot of times I am very much rewarded. And that's the beauty of it. Whenever I'm focused on the cast that I make, I don't miss topwater blowups. I'm not missing bites on Texas rigs. I'm not erratically working my crankbaits the wrong way and missing fish. You know, one of the biggest things, most frustrating things about working a crankbait is you're really not paying attention. You're looking at your phone, or you're looking around off in the distance, and then you look down, you're bringing your crankbait in, and you've got 2 or 3 bass following it. And you're like, well, why didn't they bite it? So you chuck it back out there real quick, and now you're focused, but you don't know what it is that you did to draw those bass's attention to begin with. Again, it's very, very frustrating. Now, the second thing why a lot of anglers struggle to really be able to catch bass consistently is, well, quite simply, they're not using the right tools for the job. Now, we got a lot of people on YouTube that are making videos about best baits for June, best baits for whatever, right? Best baits for summer. And a lot of guys really take those to heart. And I've made my fair share of best baits for ... But what I really want you guys to focus on is not so much the baits that I'm using, but the conditions I'm talking about. I'm trying to relate, like in the month of June, these are going to be the conditions that you're going to find out on the water. This is what you can expect when you get out there, right? It's going to be hot. A lot of times that wind is going to be dead as we get into the middle of summer. You're going to find that those bass are heavily pressured. We're going to talk about the conditions. And what I'm trying to do is pair those baits up with the conditions. That's all I'm trying to do. If you have different conditions on your fishery, then pair your bait up to those conditions. The number one thing that we should always, always, always be looking to do is work that water in an ideal fashion. And in order to do that, we've got to take the conditions in hand. We've got to look at those conditions and we've got to match them up with the right tool for the job. Whatever bait that is, whatever setup that is. Make sure you've got the right rod and reel for it and make sure you've got the right bait for it. So don't just listen to, hey, I love a lipless crank in the summertime. This is what I do with it. Why does that work? That should be the question. Why are you using a lipless crank in the summer? How are you working it? Are you working it shallow? Are you working it deep? What conditions are you having success with it? That should be the thing that we are focused on. And a lot of times we just focused on, I get the same thing in the comments all the time. Hey, lowbrow, shut up and tell me what bait to throw. Hey, lowbrow, I work this lake. This is the lake that I fish on. What bait should I use? And I always reply the same way. Well, what conditions do you have? Is the water clear? Is the water dark? Is it windy? Is there current? Is it pressured? What conditions? Because that's what you need to focus on. Don't worry about the bait. I'm telling you, the bass are not going to pass up a bait. They're not that bougie. They're not going to be looking at a bait and going, oh, I don't want that because that's not such and such. I'm in the mood for this, not that. So what you really need to be focused on is the conditions. Now, lastly, this is something that I personally struggle with quite a bit. It's something that I really need to break myself of, and it really does hamper my fishing when I'm out on the water. What is it? Well, it's past history-itis. Basically, we're using past history to determine what we're throwing today. And I'm bad about that. I have given myself more skunks on the water. That is the primary way I will skunk, is if I get into the trap of past history-itis. Now, you would think, right? You would think, let's say a fluke is working, it's killing, you're out there all day, and you are just racking up numbers of fish on a weightless fluke. You go out 2 days later, well, what's the first thing you're going to have tied on? And what's the first place you're going to go to, right? You're going to go right back to that spot, and you're going to have a weightless fluke tied on. But how many times have you gone out there? How many times have you back to that same spot? Have you raced back there hoping there's nobody else on that same spot of water, and nothing? So what do? You didn't have plan B. You were so sure that they were hitting it, that they were going to continue to hit it. But bass change, and they change like that. Overnight can be something completely different. That bite window for that particular bait might have only been right there, and you happen to get on it. So we have to be prepared, which goes back to point number 2. Fish the conditions. Fish the current conditions. Those will always be your best chance for catching fish. If you don't fish the current conditions, well, then you're going to end up opening up your tackle box because you're guessing, right? You didn't catch on what you thought was going to work because that's what worked last time, and now you don't have a clue, so now you're going to guess. And you're just tying on lures and trying them, and tying on lures and trying them, and, emptying out the tackle box into the water, as we say. And that is a really bad way to fish, because then you end up with a skunk and you end up frustrating somebody there at the boat ramp right there. How did you do today? And you're like, oh, there ain't no fish in this lake. There's not any fish in this lake. I ain't catch nothing. They're not biting. And yet you see somebody else coming in and he says, oh yeah, man, I killed them today. Man, I was catching 7, 8 and they were nice. They were all over 3 pounds. And you just grumble to yourself because you don't want to admit that you got skunked. You don't want to tell anybody that you got skunked. And worst of all, chances are you did it to yourself. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. We control the outcome when we're out on the water. You've heard me say this before. Technique over tackle. That's not just a slogan. That is something that is very true. If you're going to fish, fish by that motto. Technique over tackle. Use your technique to catch fish. And that goes with not just how you work your presentations or the gear that you have, but how you are prepared for that day. Whether you're doing weather conditions, the water conditions, or what have you. That will give you the best chance of being able to hook up with the most fish every single time you go out on the water. Like I said, it's something that I struggle with, but fortunately, these little things are so easy to correct. So there you have it. Some reasons why we keep skunking when we go out to the water. It's things that I struggle with every single day. But fortunately, they are so easy to fix. All we've got to do is pay attention and stay focused and do our homework. You'd be amazed at how that little extra effort can really make a huge change when you're out on the water. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.